Fox News is trying to figure out why everyone is loving socialism and failing to comprehend why. Here's Hakeem Jeffries.
Hakeem Jeffries is rolling out a new motto to punch back at the socialist label his Republican rivals are trying to attach to the Democratic Party's agenda. Listen.
As Democrats, we believe in a strong floor and no ceiling. Here's my view of what the Democratic Party represents. We believe in a strong floor and no ceiling. As Democrats, we believe in a strong floor and no ceiling. And here's what Democrats stand for. We believe in a country with a strong floor and no ceiling.
Bro, trying to actively message against the current most popular thing in your party that is from your district, by the way, that is like controlling your district as a mayor. Oh my God. I can't even.
We believe in a country that has a strong floor and no ceiling.
The leader did not come up with this on his own. As the Washington Post points out, the phrase comes from the title of a book written by a Manhattan venture capitalist named Oliver Libby that offers more than 50 mostly centrist proposals. And the idea, quote, posits that everyone should have the government support to pursue the American dream without limiting the success available to those already at the top. The big question here is, will this message be effective in next year's midterms against Donald Trump? Joining us now is Oliver Libby, the author of Strong Floor, No Ceiling. Oliver, thank you so much for joining us this morning. I want to read a quote from the book because I was reading it last night, and this quote I think it's in one of the earlier chapters stuck out to me. Unfortunately, our political camps want us to believe that a villain is responsible for our troubles. Perhaps immigrants, minorities, and freeloaders are to blame, and poor freeloaders are to blame. Or are the 1%, Wall Street and Silicon Valley, robbing us? The solutions are similarly polarizing and one-dimensional. One side strives to deregulate, cut taxes, and starve the government, leaving people and companies to their own devices, including limited social safety nets. The other demonizes success, looking to redistribute wealth and push identity politics. I assume the latter is your Democrat, is the Democratic Party. When I read that, the thing that I got stuck on was push identity politics, because one, I mean, the Republican Party is pushing identity politics every single day, right? Like they talk about trans people as if they're taking over the world when that's not the case. What do you say to people who maybe read the book and engage with the actual policy prescriptions that you have and kind of the things that's undergirding it and say, you know, this is something maybe we've heard before, or it is going to leave out marginalized communities?
From the people that brought you cynically weaponizing identity politics against people to your left flank that are more progressive than you, now comes, yeah, f this identity politics shit. It's like, bitch, the f do you mean? You don't get to say that. What do you mean? The f do you mean with identity politics? Bro, do you know who you are? What do you mean identity politics? That's their whole game.
Is because the idea of not pushing identity politics does concern those marginalized communities.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, thanks for having me here. Look, I think identity politics is a weaponized term, but if you read what I wrote in Strong Floor, No Ceiling, Strong Floor applies to everybody. And I am someone, by the way, who spent almost 20 years investing largely in underrepresented founders, and I believe enormously that there are different starting points in American society, and we need to do our best to fix that. The promise of Strong Floor, No Ceiling, if you get into the meat on the bones in the book, there are really important policies like a single-payer healthcare system and like a lot of education for everybody in our society. But at the end of the day, people want to believe that if you work hard and play by the rules, that there should be no ceiling to what you can achieve, and that should apply to everybody in our society. So,
awesome. Hakeem Jeffries hitting this line is so stupid because Hakeem Jeffries is basically coming out of the gate swinging against a false interpretation of what socialism is for absolutely zero reason. Doing the classic Democratic thing, which is to adopt your enemy's framework. Awesome. Like, oh, the implication here is that, well, socialism actually means there is a ceiling, right? We want everyone to prosper. We don't want people to really suffer by not being able to prosper. You know, we don't want to limit growth. That's awesome. Thank you. Thank you for coming out and defending the real victims of society, entrepreneurs and people who might become trillionaires. Dope.
I want to get beyond the attack lines. It's it's so easy to be angry today, and it's so right to be angry about so many things, but anger is not solving problems for people. Anger is not policy. It's not government. You can't govern angry. You got to govern for the people. And I think if we provide that strong floor, but the promise, the aspiration that you can do great things and get that middle class, and even maybe beyond the middle class, that's something everybody in this country wants, and minority communities more than anyone.
Yeah.
Oliver, though, I'm curious about this no ceiling idea, because we are in a world where wealth inequality is, we have the richest people are richer than ever, right? And part of the reason the middle class is having so much trouble is because there are very, very, very wealthy people who are paying very, very small fractions of their wealth in taxes. And we thought, the original thinking was they would make up for that in philanthropy. People like Elon Musk have proven that is pretty much not what they're doing. So is no ceiling really appropriate? I mean, I come from we both went to the same private school, so we both know, that we come from a certain group, and I just wonder, is no ceiling really the play? I mean, don't you think that people who have over $100 million should be taxed at a higher rate? And don't you think that we have, we're about to have trillionaires? Like, do you think no ceiling? Like, maybe there should be a ceiling.
Yeah, Molly, thank you. I don't think there should be a ceiling. And I don't think actually most people in this country think there should be a ceiling. No ceiling does not mean no rules. And if you get into the policies in the book, the economics chapter is the longest one. There's a lot about taxation, about enforcing the tax code. I mean, we leave
I think the argument here is just built on a faulty premise. What do you mean no ceiling? Again, liberalism is so brain rotting that there is even when you have a bold policy making or whatever, right? It's still stuck within the confines of liberalism. Like, the solution isn't to just take billionaires' money and give it to every single person equally or some shit. The solution is not even through a higher tax bracket in general. You obviously have to implement some kind of wealth tax. But the most reliable long-term solution would be redistribution at the point of labor, ensuring that there is more autonomy in the workplace and more power at the point of your output. You go to work and your boss pays you less than you generate money for them. That's called profit. You should have more of a say on how those profits get allocated. In many circumstances, what remains of the margins of the marginal profit that exists is obviously always given to the shareholders, but what remains, or not what remains rather, but the reason why those profit margins are so slim is not because the labor is so costly. It's because they're doing expenditures elsewhere. CEO compensation is one of those expenditures, but even beyond the CEO compensation, it's there's so much that they're wasting away that if given if there was any sort of democratic process taking place here, they would not be able to do this. They would not be able to get away with it. No stock buybacks, none of that shit.
Billions of dollars a decade on the table because we don't actually enforce the tax code. I welcome it being enforced. And by the way, we're seeing people across the aisle, look at Mitt Romney recently saying that there may be an argument for higher taxes and certainly for enforcement. So no ceiling doesn't mean no rules, and there ought to be rules. And by the way, it makes me very sad to see someone like Elon Musk be able to dump $250 million into campaigns. But we all know that's not illegal. It should not be possible, but it's not illegal. And so we have to create the right rules. Most people out there are sports fans. You don't want the players calling their own fouls and their own goals, right? You want there to be refs on the field and lines and goals, and then you want the players to play hard. So I don't think there should be a ceiling to what people on the sports field can do. There shouldn't be a ceiling to what people can do here. But again, it has to be within the bounds of the interconnectedness of strong floor and no ceiling. If there's going to be no ceiling, it has to pay for a strong floor and give everybody, Eugene, back to your question, everybody a chance.
What do you say to people who say you can't become a billionaire nowadays without, taking from and taking advantage of people that have a lot less than?
I don't think that's correct. I think most people who become billionaires, and look, I run a venture firm, and we have invested for almost 2 decades in companies that help people and the planet. And
by the way, remember when he said I don't want to do identity politics, I want to do away with identity politics? And then immediately followed that up when the host, HasanAbi head, by the way, asked him that question like, oh, well, don't you think Republicans are doing identity politics? Which is true. They are doing identity politics. They're just doing white identity politics. He turned around and said, oh, well, I've worked with I was doing venture capital for underserved minority-backed companies. It's like, oh, really? Oh, so you are still doing identity politics. Like that, because that's what it is. It's like, it's bullshit. It's like a bullshit posture. And you just showed that it's bullshit posture. You just did that. They won't give an example of what he would consider a ceiling. Well, that's the whole point. He doesn't want to have a ceiling. But then again, there is no ceiling to begin with. There is no ceiling whatsoever. The reality of the matter is, there's not really any ceiling. We just don't have a floor at all. In order to build a floor, you would probably, under a liberal understanding of the economy, you would have a ceiling. Okay? Like we already have this system and it sucks. Exactly. Well, the point is, that's why everyone always says, well, America's all about equality of opportunity, not equality of outcome. It's like, bitch, when the do we have equality of opportunity? And I'm not even talking about like racial lines either, okay? Because that obviously is the easiest one to understand. But like even then, what do you mean we have equality of opportunity? Really? Really? White boy growing up in some forgotten town in West Virginia has equality of opportunity in comparison to your son probably growing up in a Connecticut McMansion? Who the has equality of opportunity? When have we had equality of opportunity in this country? It's bullshit. We live in a country where the zip code that you're born into is more indicative of exactly where you're going to land in terms of your wealth, okay? Are there people that are able to overcome that sometimes? In very rare cases, yes. And we always love hyping those people up because meritocracy is a lie, and those examples are the ones that keep promoting this lie. Even the concept of middle class, lower, you know, like working poor, all of these different designations have been created in order to dilute Marxian interpretation of class, okay? They were created for liberalism to continue to look at the appropriate analysis of capitalism from Karl Marx's perspective, which was basically one of the most important works for sociology, and try to dilute it to the best of your ability so that you could still kind of lean into the Marxist analysis without actually doing it at all. The notion of like middle class and all this stuff. That's why everybody thinks they're middle class, no matter how wealthy they are. Everyone's middle class, okay? You're either broke as or you're middle class or you're the 1%. Meanwhile, year over year, that middle class is swinging wildly. It's bullshit. I don't usually talk about this kind of stuff that much, and I also will personally utilize this kind of terminology. I'm not as disciplined, right, as some others who abide by Marxist orthodoxy. But the reason why I don't really shy away from utilizing this kind of terminology is because, you know, it's just people understand themselves in that way. And I speak to people with the language that they understand. Now, the other point I'm trying to make here is that all of this stuff the system is entirely built around this lie, right? Oh, middle class, you have social mobility. Well, except liberalism is failing so much that even the notion of middle class is actually shrinking, and it's just basically becoming the working poor and the 1%. So it's ironically turning into a more black and white understanding of class. Like it's basically turning into a easier to comprehend version of, like, you know, gig workers and then billionaires, okay? And the more we leave capitalism up to its devices, the more that's going to happen, right? Regardless of how much policymakers think hard about making it seem as though you, as a working class individual, have an ownership stake in the stock market, right? 401ks, or Donald Trump giving you $100 at the age of 1 so you can have like a stock trading portfolio or whatever none of those things are going to work. It makes people feel like they have some kind of stake in the stock market, sure. But at the end of the day, the income inequality and the wealth disparity is so ginormous that even the dumbest guy kind of gets to realize what's going on. There is no more upward social mobility. People don't believe that it's possible, and I can't fault them for believing that it's not possible. So in that situation, of course, people are going to lean into socialism. And it's understandable, and it's good that they're doing that, despite being heavily propagandized against socialism. And so when I hear someone like Hakeem Jeffries, who's supposed to be the leader of the left flank party in the two-party system, yes, both bourgeois parties, both playing the same role under a capitalist organization of the economy. Don't give me that bullshit. But ultimately, if you're presenting yourself as the left flank party in our two-party system, and the left flank party in one of the two major parties, coming to the table in the little moments that you have in the media by attacking socialism rather than attacking the right is insane. Because anyone that says, "Oh, we need to have a strong bottom but no ceiling, strong floor but no ceiling," that's a bastardization of what socialism actually is. It's also pathetically liberal. The notion of like having some kind of ceiling, that's not a socialist principle. That's not a socialist principle at all.
If you look at the founders we've backed, they are from all walks of life.
But the billionaires now, like Elon Musk and all the tech bros that were at the swearing in of Donald Trump, they're not exactly doing the work that you were doing. They're doing something completely different.
Well, but look at it. I mean, most of the unicorns, most of the tech companies that sell for $1 billion are founded by immigrants, and well over half of them have female founders. I mean, this is a time in history where we ought not to be capping what you can aspire to do. We just ought to be putting the right rules around it. And the fact of the matter is, most people who make $1 billion created a product people want to buy. That's inherently American. Now, we should be better as a society about what products we want to buy, maybe, and about what we ask people who achieve great wealth to do with that wealth. But the idea isn't to say that you hit a certain ceiling and then you're done. I mean, that's, and look, it's interesting, strong floor, no ceiling is not something we tested. I didn't run a single poll when I was writing the book. I just sat there writing. But now we've actually gone out there, and it's like 100% of the people we've asked think that there should be no ceiling to what you can do if you follow the rules, pay your taxes, and do right.
Notice how most of what he's talking about is just the ceiling part. Kind of feels like he just cares about the no ceiling part. Have you guys noticed that? Yeah, the floor's fine. Shut the fuck up. But the ceiling, everybody wants the ceiling. Everybody wants to make sure that there's no ceiling. Unlimited growth, unlimited growth, unlimited growth. Come on now. I wonder why they are saying they're cool with people being as rich as they want to be. The floor is for the dirt. Exactly. Now, obviously, like I said, this is already a liberal interpretation of what you can do. Like the maximum, the maxed out, max left under a liberal capitalist organization of the economy is obviously redistributive policies in the form of taxes, right? So that's what they're advocating for. So this is already right wing from my perspective. It's already capitalist. And this guy literally is saying, no, let's not do too much redistributive policies because then you'll actually harm innovation. Okay, how is that any different than what we have right now? That's literally what we have right now. A fake gesturing towards a strong floor while ultimately defending the high or unlimited ceiling. That's what it is. That's what we're doing currently. Clearly, it doesn't work, so much so that you are trying to actively propagandize against it. You're trying to find a new way, put a new patina on the same dog shit, new coat of paint. Abundists, strong floor, no ceiling. This guy won't even let you have redistributive policies under a capitalist organization of the economy. Again, you're lost. You're lost in the sauce. And also, it's a double Monty because you end up propagandizing against socialism anyway by claiming that socialism means there's a ceiling there. I hate that. It's stupid. Look at China. That's all I'm gonna say. Look at China. Don't feel like there's a ceiling there, does it? Certainly a strong floor, though. How's no ceiling good, though? It just doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The conversation around the ceiling does not matter. It only matters to liberals who think that the only way to fix this system is with better redistributive policies at the point of taxation. And while I'm in favor of that, as I have consistently advocated for that, right? That's not going to fix the problem. Do you see what I mean? Yeah, this is here it is, baby. No ceiling, okay? No. Here's what happens. Elon Musk's net worth before Doge, 400 billion. After Doge, 749 billion. Oh, thank God, dude. You know what's really funny about this this endless greed? The number of people who are the super winners in the system are shrinking as well. Like at least back in the day when you didn't have like billionaires, when billionaire was a new phenomena, right? You had objectively more one percenters. or the highest, percentage of wealth retainers was still distributed amongst a much larger percentage of the population. It's going to get to a point where it's just 10 guys that own everything, for the record. This article is exactly what I'm talking about. America's 15 richest billionaires got $1 trillion richer as the affordability crisis became a top concern. For many Americans, 2025 wasn't a great year financially. The affordability crisis and general economic concerns became defining themes of the year as people dealt with rising costs and a worsening job market. But for billionaires, 2025 was a boon for their already exuberant wealth. The 15 richest billionaires in the United States saw their wealth grow by more than $1 trillion over the course of the year, according to a new analysis from the Institute for Policy Studies, a Washington, D.C. think tank. As the end of 2025, those 15 billionaires, each with assets over $100 billion, have a combined wealth of $3.2 trillion, up from $2.4 trillion a year ago. That's a gain of 33%. Do you feel like you got 33% wealthier this year? Did you? I certainly didn't. And I'm actually in like the highest rungs of earners in this country and perhaps around the world. As a matter of fact, I didn't have a 33% gain, which is more than double the growth of the S&P 500 for the same time period. The Institute for Policy Studies notes over 2025, the S&P 500 rose 16%. A double-digit gain is strong, but it is down from recent years. How the wealth of the top 5 billionaires, richest billionaires, have changed. Not only did billionaires get richer in 2025, but more Americans became billionaires. At the end of 2024, there were 813 billionaires in the U.S., and those billionaires had a combined wealth of $6.72 trillion. My bad, King. I'll give more subs. Yeah, get to it. Get to it. Chop, chop. Subscribe to the Piker Broadcasting Service. If you want to know the news of tomorrow, if you want to know what happens tomorrow, you come here. If you want to understand what's happening today, you come here. If you want to make sense of what happened yesterday, you come here. The Piker Broadcasting Service is sponsored by you, the viewers, for you, the viewers. Thank you. By the end of 2025, there were 935 billionaires. When Forbes first began tracking the 400 wealthiest Americans in 1982, Cloud Queen, think of the 5 gifted. There were just 13 billionaires on the list. 1982, there were 13 billionaires. Now there's 935. And the dumbest thing is that people think this is awesome. Like, people literally think this is good for them. I cannot comprehend how people ride for this shit. Where they're like, what do you mean? Do you hate prosperity? It's like, bitch, do you feel prosperous? That's so much money. They can't even use it. Like, it's just parked in assets, dude. If you were to forcibly divvy those assets down to the individuals that actually played a role in developing that wealth, that net worth, you would have a ton better wealth redistribution. The top 5 wealthiest billionaires have changed over the last year too, at least in the beginning. The top wealthiest billionaires were Tesla CEO Elon Musk, Amazon executive chair Jeff Bezos, Oracle co-founder Larry Ellison, Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg, Google co-founder Larry Page. This year, Zuckerberg was bumped off that list. Oh, no. Oh, bummer, dude. You see that shit? God, I feel so bad for the Zuck. Sergey Brin joined the ranks. 2025 was the best year for Google stock since 2009, with shares growing 65%, buoyed in part by tech giants push into AI. In contrast, stock price for Zuckerberg's Meta platforms grew about 13%, though Meta also focused on AI. His strategy was more scattershot, experts have said. Yeah, now you got Elon Musk of Tesla, X, and SpaceX worth $722 billion, up from $421 billion a year ago. But that's because he worked so hard this year, guys. He worked so hard. It must have been all the illegal immigrants that are ruining your life, okay? Making sure that you don't actually take home a decent pay. Make sure you don't get the benefits you deserve. Make sure we don't have socialized medicine in this country. No working public transit system. No adequate infrastructure. Yeah, please keep focusing on the Somali fraud. Please, I'm begging you. Do not look up. Do not look up. Look down. Look down only. Punch down. Punch down. Punch down. It's the Somalis. The Somalians, actually. Okay? Larry Page of Google, worth $257 billion. Larry Ellison of Oracle, worth $245 billion, up from $209 billion. Jeff Bezos of Amazon, worth $242 billion, up from $233 billion. Sergey Brin of Google, worth $237 billion, up from $148.9 billion a year ago. An affordability crisis for average Americans. At this point, money just seems fake. It is. It's the fakest it's ever been. I say this all the time. This is the fakest money has ever been in the history of mankind. And this isn't even like on some, we got to go back to the gold standard shit, okay? but this is the fakest money has ever been. It will probably get even faker. It's crazy though. It's so fake. Apparently, the LDS Church is now the second largest private landowner in the U.S. with 2.3 million acres tax-free, worth $300 billion in market assets. Tax the churches. Nice. 5-year-old me has been vindicated. I always thought money was fake. Yeah, no, this is it. This is literally what's going on. Do you get it yet? Are those daycares even real? Yep. I live in a very Republican area, and hearing people around me begrudgingly admit that their financial situation has only gotten worse over the last year is something I never thought I'd see during a Trump presidency. Remember, what did I say? What did I say when I was actually criticizing the Biden administration for running with this like vibeflation or vibe session narratives, right? People were saying like, "Oh, dude, the negative real wage growth that people experience under the Biden administration, that's just fake. That's just fake." If we just keep saying fake, then people will understand it. No, they didn't. They actually got more mad because they were like, it don't feel fake to me, bitch. And that's what's frustrating because Trump thinks he can do the same thing now. It's not working. It's not going to work. And what did I always explain to people, even up in the, a big part of this narrative building that was lost, like a real part of this conversation that was lost, was that in the narrative building, people forgot that in 2016, things were seemingly a lot better than it is in 2024, and yet they were still so angry about their future prospects that they voted for Donald Trump to break the system. That was a clear-cut indication that the system was not working for them, so much so that they actually wanted to punish a remnant of the elite Hillary Rodham Clinton by voting for the gamble, the wild card, Donald Trump. This was something that I tried to explain to people back then. People, I mean, objectively, in comparison to now, the average person was probably doing better than they are in 2020 or than they were in 2024. Okay. One must ask the question, why? Democrats refuse to ask that question, and that's why we keep losing. Okay. That's why there is always another incompetent fascist who ends up winning power. But that is precisely the reason why I said that Republicans would inevitably feel this pain as well. Because no matter how much Trump tries to claim that things are getting better, no matter how much Trump tries to say, oh, dude, the economy's so good, but if it's bad, it's because of Biden. And it's not bad. It's actually good. But the worst parts about it is because of Biden. You're not going to, or no matter how much Donald Trump says, like, oh, it's the Somalis, it's that we just haven't deported enough people. Okay. Oh, your turkey is 35% off. You got 35% more money in your pocket from the turkey that you purchased during Thanksgiving. Okay. You cannot out propaganda how people are feeling in their wallets. Okay. You just can't do that. It's what they're seeing. It's what they're experiencing. It's what they're living. That's it. Of course, as the conditions worsen, the more people hammer on this point, right? The more they keep doing this shit. Conditions keep getting worse. And as Republicans start recognizing, like, wait a minute, this Trump guy, he's not helping me out either. Some people will turn around and say, oh, no, it's because he hasn't deported enough minorities, right? He hasn't deported enough. That's why, because he's fake. He's fake. He's phony. We got to deport even more people, which that's never going to happen, right? Because at the end of the day, Donald Trump is not so racist that he will literally nuke the American economy to the degree that it would nuke the American economy if you actually deported every single migrant. It's just not going to happen. You sure? Yes. And I said that. I said that in 2025 as a part of my predictions, and I was right. Stephen Miller might be that guy, but you have to remember, okay? You have to remember, the entire point of shitting on the migrant worker, is so that they stay undocumented. Because if you come at it with a recognition that the migrant worker is no different than the domestic laborer, and that they should also get a higher, they should bargain alongside one another to demand a bigger piece of the pie that they are generating, all of a sudden he's not going to have unlimited cookies, and we can't have that. So that propaganda both works as a distraction, but it also is an important it's an important position to consistently reassert so that nobody gets the wrong idea and starts thinking that these guys are actually human beings and that they need to, what is this? Money should be nothing but the condensed value of labor. Apes need to be separated, need to stay separated. What the are you talking about, chatter? Explain yourself right now. Is GDP growth a helpful indicator or not? No, no, it's not. The do you mean? That's why when Buttlick went on Fox News, we laughed when he was like, GDP growth in December was 4.3%. That means every American is going to have 4.3% more money in their pockets. That's not how anything works. Yeah, no country can sustain losing 1/3 of its population and remain standing. This is suicidal stupidity. This post uses Hiroshi Nagai's artwork without permission. Hiroshi Nagai himself has also posted his illustrations are being used without authorization. The peace of a nation no longer besieged by the third world. America after 100 million deportations. 100 million deportations? Tell the joke. It's good. I love telling it because of you. Tell the joke. Oh my God. Two economists walk into the woods. There's a dog shit that they happen to be near. One economist says to the other, hey, if you eat this dog shit, I'll give you $100. Economist 2 picks up the piece of dog shit and eats it. They keep walking. He gets the $100. They keep walking. They see another piece of dog shit. Economist number 2, now freshly $100 richer, turns to economist number 1 and says, hey, if you eat that piece of dog shit, I'll give you this $100. Economist number 2 says, or economist number 1 says, sure, eats the piece of dog shit, gets the $100. They leave the forest and they think to themselves, why did we do this? What good came out of this? We both ate dog shit and none of us actually made money. Economist number 1 says, but the GDP increased by $200. That's GDP. That's what it is. Last time you said it was $50. Inflation is crazy. Now tell the same joke like Elon Musk. Economist eats dog shit. Give me $1 trillion. Thank you. Comedy is legal now. Comedy is legal now, libtard. If you don't laugh at my joke, I'm going to deport you. Is that good? Dark MAGA. God, remember when that dickhead was all over the television? The Dark MAGA. Dark MAGA. God, I hate him so much. He sucks.